Out live right now to the White House, where Donald Trump will soon move back in as he is projected to be the 47th president. Here is another look at that electoral map. What we know right now, Wisconsin was the state that sent Trump past the magic number of 270 a couple of hours ago.
Our senior political reporter Jason Whiteley was here late into the night last night. He is here back again this morning to help us break down these results. And we talked yesterday. You thought that despite the polls being close, we would see a clear break. Are you surprised it came as soon as it did?
Not necessarily. You and I discussed this last night at one point. Either way, one person was going to win clearly, and that's what we saw last night. Wisconsin was one of those states you mentioned there because there was Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia. These states started breaking for him early on. There was a lot of talk early on, too, that, Pennsylvania might take several days to figure out. 4 years ago, it took until Saturday to get nailed down. Here's the bottom line. For Republicans nationally, for Republicans in Texas, this was not a dream last night. This was a nightmare for Democrats, the scene that unfolded there. And they're waking up with a huge hangover, not knowing really where they go from here, because this was a huge win for Donald Trump and in Texas for Ted Cruz.
And we're also talking about the people who did vote for Donald Trump. So when it came to those exit polls and seeing the demographics, those have shifted as well. They
have shifted as well. And, there are a couple things to take away from this, especially with the Donald Trump vote in Texas and with the Ted Cruz vote in Texas. There are about 400,000 more people in Texas who voted for Donald Trump than voted for Ted Cruz. Now that says something happened on the ballot. When people went in to go vote yesterday, these Texans who voted for Trump, they skipped the Cruz race. 400,000 Texans skipped the Cruz race or voted for Colin Allred. It didn't matter at the end of the day for Ted Cruz. He still won decisively. That race in the Senate race between Ted Cruz and Colin Allred was within the margin of error for months. So everyone thought that was going to be a close race. At the end of the day, it wasn't even near as close as people thought. It was almost 10 points. That's a mandate for Ted Cruz to go back to D.C.
When it comes to comebacks for Donald Trump, this has been hailed as, one of the biggest political comebacks in recent memory, if not American history. Where would you rank it?
Yeah, indeed so. I was trying to think when I was walking out of here about 2 a.m. last night, where this ranks and what other comeback may have been bigger than this one. And I can't think of one that goes back that far. We're talking probably in the 1800s if there was one back then. But there's still a lot of things to sort out on this. For Donald Trump, and for Ted Cruz, but for Donald Trump specifically, his campaign was about mass deportations on day one. That's going to impact Texas if that happens. The mass deportations are for criminals who are here without documents. There are tariffs for Chinese and Mexican-made products. There are a lot of things that Texans are going to have to figure out how this is going to impact them, how it's going to impact this economy that's running along at full steam.
We've seen so often that before an election, Texas is often called purple or a color. It seems like do we just now call it red again?
We cut that out last night early on. Somebody said last night in our streaming program, oh yeah, Texas might be purple. We've talked about that for too much. Texas is solid red. One Republican texted me last night and said this state is going to be solid red through at least 2031, if not longer, but it is fire engine red this morning.
It's only purple off University Drive in Fort Worth. That's about it.
That's it, my friend.
Oh, I knew you were going to get that TC reference. Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate it, Jason.